Hey, chiropractors, welcome to Modern Chiropractic Mastery with your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, where we discuss the latest in marketing, business, and professional growth with some of the leading experts in the industry. Docs, welcome to another episode of Modern Chiropractic Mastery. Today, we are going to really dive in on how to leverage technology in your practice. And we really focus on the patient experience and go through different touch points that you can leverage the technologies out there. And in this show, I'm interviewing Keenan Assaraf of ReviewWave. He's been someone I've known for a couple years now, helped us on board in our practice, and just someone that's been a resource for me on the different technologies out there. And even at the end, we talk about what's coming in the future. And so this is going to be a great episode for you to start looking at the different touch points you have in your practice, the experience they have, whether it's from becoming a new patient or they're inactive, right? There's a lot of things that can be done now in 2022 to really focus on making their life easier. And we even dive into the different generations, like we're starting to realize now, like all those millennials that we've been talking about for a while, at least if you're my age or older, they are now becoming your prime age demographic to be patients, and they have different buying decision-making processes. They communicate differently. And so we dive into all those little nuances, which is it's just a great episode. And I really enjoyed this interview. And also, before we dive into that, we do have the free course on outpacing inflation in private practice. And this, it's 6 lessons. We don't talk about the technology and leveraging in the patient experience in that course. But honestly, if you do some of the things we talk about in this episode, it can help you outpace inflation. You can increase your revenue and your profit margins by doing some of the stuff that we talk about in this show today. But go on over, sign up for free, take the 6 lessons, work through how you can outpace inflation, grow at least 10%, if not more. And you can check that out at bit.ly/MCM inflation. And you can sign up for free, 6 little mini courses, video lessons, things to implement and actually move the needle in your practice for 2023. All right, without further ado, here's my interview with Keenan Assaraf. All right, welcome to the show, Keenan. I really appreciate your time today, and your representation of ReviewWave. You've just been a very good resource for me and for my audience, and in your company in general has. And we're going to dive into a lot of fun stuff today. But before we do, this is your first time on our show. We've had your head honcho there on a couple of times, which has been great. But tell us a little bit about yourself, personally, professionally, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, you got it, Kevin. So first off, appreciate you having me on. Once again, name's Keenan Assaraf. Been in chiropractic specifically for about 6 years. Got my marketing degree from Providence College out in Rhode Island, and grew up in chiropractic as well. I played all different sports growing up, mostly lacrosse. Went out and played at Providence as well, and was in and out of the chiropractic office consistently. So I know a lot about the office, and I talk with a ton of chiropractors on a daily, weekly basis, which is awesome for me to be able to give back to the profession that's given me so much throughout my athletic career. So that's a little bit about me. On a more personal note, my father, John Assaraf, was also a big speaker in chiropractic as well. So I was always going to conferences with him when I was growing up, learning about the profession. And then he was big on business growth and personal development. So I picked up a lot of those things along the way as well, which have absolutely helped mold what I do now here at ReviewWave, as well as what I do in my personal and professional life and working with chiropractors as well.
Awesome. That sounds great. And the topic that we have today, which is just, it's so important, and it's leveraging technology for sales and retention. And we're going to do this in an elegant way. And I think a lot of our audience is looking for those. We actually just had our mastermind weekend in Key Largo, and we talked about a lot of automations. We have a very successful group of chiropractors in the mastermind, and some of these practices get very big and a lot of moving parts, and it's very people heavy, which is great. But there's a lot of ways you can offload some of those things. And we talked about automation, and I know we'll dive into some of that today. So Let's dive right into what the dilemma is that you're seeing out there.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest dilemma that we see nowadays is that attention's changing, right? It's patients have become less dependent on personal interaction and more dependent on social interaction via technology, right? Whether that be cell phone, texting, social media. As we've continued to adopt technology further and further as a society,
Mhm,
people's attention spans have gotten shorter and shorter, right? So, how do we, as business professionals, as chiropractors, make sure that we're leveraging the technology to make sure that we can keep our patients' attention when their attention span is shrinking? So,
mhm.
that's the biggest dilemma that we're seeing. And other things is how do we automate some of these things to free up our time to really give the patient what they want, which is an excellent experience, and also a business what they want, which is time freedom, happiness of the staff, happiness of the provider, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and it's an interesting dichotomy. It's like if you can free up your team and automate a lot of these touch points, that'll free them up to have better in-person touch points. So you're using the technology to actually leverage better human connection when they are in the office. And then you're also, again, it sounds ironic, but you're using technology strategically to cut through the clutter of all the technology that's also distracting them. So it's a lot
Yep.
of kind of a mind twist there a little bit.
Big time. It's you got to be using the platform that they're using, but
Mhm.
of course that's the platform that sucks the most time out of their day as far as what they're using most, but it also gives them the capability to be engaging with you on the thing that they use most, right, which is their cell phone. So
Yeah. And what are some of the statistics around that with what you guys are starting to see? Because I know you're doing a lot of research on, smartphone usage, different types of hours on platforms, things like that.
oh yeah. So millennials, Gen Z, I mean, as you'd imagine, almost 100% of them all have smartphones. I think what's most surprising is as you get up above the age of 50, back in like 2015, only around, I'd say under 60% of people ages 50 to 64 had smartphones.
Mhm.
Now it's up well above 80%. And the same thing with like senior citizens, even right back in 2015, only 30% had smartphones, and now it's up over 61%. So I speak with a lot of chiropractors on a weekly basis who will tell me our patients don't want to text. They don't have smartphones, but it's like as time is going on, more and more people are getting those smartphones and more people are engaging with them. And it makes sense, right? That's the way that older people can now engage with their family, get into that technological scene as well.
Yeah, and it's always interesting because as a provider, sometimes we get stuck in our thought process. Like, so I'm almost 43, and to me, when I was, let's rewind 12 years ago, my millennials were not a target demographic for my practice. It would have been more Gen X and baby boomer because the millennials were too young. But now when I look at it, like the millennials can be 38 years old, right? Like 40 years old, I think is the cutoff right now. I think born in 1982 or 83, something like that. But though that mid to late 30s, that early 30s, that's prime time now for us as chiropractors. So the millennials have become like our prime patient base. And then the Gen Z's coming up after that as well. And then the Gen Xers like me and in the 50 years old, like we're pretty astute when it comes to technology. And so a large demographic as a chiropractor now, a large demographic of your patient base is falling into this category of they are tech savvy. They're expecting the businesses that they service or the business that they consume to be tech savvy as well.
Exactly. Right. It's as those younger demographics get older, we can't slip into the habits that kept us successful back 10 years ago and expect those same exact habits to be working 10 years in the future. Right. So, adopting the technology that your patient base is using, especially your prime patient base, which is now millennials,
Yep.
even Gen X, and then, of course, expecting and preparing for what the Gen Z is going to be doing in the future so that we can best leverage technology to grow our business for sure.
Yeah, we're going to touch on that in the end, kind of planning for the future for sure. And it's one of those things where if you're a more, I call it a seasoned veteran chiropractor, and maybe you're not fully up to speed on technology, there are resources, obviously, we're going to talk about today to make your practice tech savvy, right? So even if you're not tech savvy, which is fine, we're not saying you have to go out and spend a year becoming tech savvy, but your practice still can be tech savvy by obviously outsourcing to companies like yours, or even sometimes leveraging, you might have a team member, you may have an office manager that's a Gen X or a millennial or an associate or another team member on your staff that is, and you could really have them delegate handling some of this stuff as well, right?
Absolutely. I think biggest thing right now is if you're not tech savvy, there's plenty of technology that's completely hands off where you can be tech savvy without having to know or do
Yeah.
anything tech savvy.
Yeah.
Right. So leverage the younger demographic as well, right? You have staff members for a reason. They
Mhm.
will be tech savvy if you hire younger. They can manage all the technology stuff, but also the technology is usually smart enough to work and do its own thing too. So and that's important, right?
Yeah.
Making sure that that technology can offload your workload so that you're not overwhelmed with the technology, but it also benefits the patients that you're serving, which at the end of the day is the most important thing, right? Cater to your patients, the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like I always say is like, if you get to a certain point in your practice and you don't need to do marketing personally and you're too busy, your practice should still have marketing, and there's ways to do that obviously. And it's the same way. If you're not tech savvy, your practice still can be tech savvy. So, what are your kind of top four aspects of leveraging technology? What are the categories that you would discuss?
Yeah, I would say with leveraging technology, there's going to be a lot of different things that we would say touch on specifically as far as things that would be beneficial. But social media, I mean, that's going to be the biggest piece.
Mhm.
The more that you can build a social media presence, the more that you can essentially make yourself non-new patient proof in the sense that you
Yeah.
can always find a news source of patients from social media.
Mhm.
You'll see a bunch of different chiropractors who do an excellent job of leveraging this, and they'll never not have a busy practice,
Mhm.
right? Because they've done an excellent job with branding, which is the second piece, which is giving yourself the online presence on, say, the internet, Google, Facebook, whatever it might be, to really get your message across to patients. And then there's digital advertising, like paid advertising, where you can run pay-per-click advertisements,
Mhm.
social media advertisements to get your name out there. I would say the last piece of technology is building on your patient experience as well, right?
Yeah.
Making sure that your patient experience is at an all-time high through technology, whether that be online scheduling, forms on the website, all this good stuff where we can cater to patients. Um, that those would be the biggest things as far as leveraging technology, I would say.
Yeah. That's great, and I think we're going to really hit a lot on the patient experience, and full disclosure, I utilize Review Wave in my practice now, and it's something that we've done a lot with as far as a lot of people always think about new patients, which is obviously huge. But what we've been able to do to have good touch points with our current patients or even our past patients, which has been really nice. And so, currently, what we're seeing that is working, what would you say are some of the top things you're seeing in chiropractic practices?
Yeah, I think it all boils down to your patient experience,
Mhm.
right? It's like, how can we as an office cater to what our patients are doing to give them the best experience while simultaneously making their life better,
Yeah.
right? So, first off, providing excellent service. I mean, that's always going to be a crucial piece of the patient experience. So, making sure that they feel cared about, feel
Mhm.
like family, right? But also leveraging technology like, um, online scheduling, online forms, things that make it easier for patients to actually engage with your office. And I think a lot of offices that I speak with,
Mhm.
they do focus more on like the new patient side of things, but
Yep.
it's almost like once they get that new patient through the doors, they don't have the touch points like you were saying to actually retain patients long term, boost their PVA, uh, and that's the most overlooked thing that I would say that offices do. So having those systems in place are super helpful for building that retention, building that better patient experience for sure.
Yeah, I had a funny story where not that long ago, like a few weeks ago, I was in the middle of like calling the veterinarian, and then I was on the website, and then I realized, and I was like, the phone was ringing, and then I realized I had online scheduling, and I was about to hang up, and the person picked up the phone, and I still hung up on them, because I wanted to schedule online. It's
That's the
like
way it goes.
I like to schedule online. And so what we ended up doing in our practice was doing kind of like a technology map and all the different touch points you could have. And so the online scheduling was a big one for that. So just touch briefly on online scheduling, and I'm going to kind of go to the next part.
With online scheduling, the biggest piece with that is that's how patients expect to be able to book nowadays,
Yeah.
right? In an age where phone calling is becoming more and more obsolete and text messaging is becoming more and more prevalent, people are now uncomfortable picking up the phone to call your office to book that appointment.
Mhm.
The other big piece is most patients don't book during your normal work hours, right? They're at work doing their own business versus when they call you, it's after hours. You guys have left the office. They call, they leave a voicemail. Usually
Mhm.
we don't have an answering service in place. Usually there's no one answering the phone after hours for you. And then that patient has to wait an entire business day until you get back to them, which
Yep.
from my perspective, that is not a good patient experience,
Yep.
right? Now patients want to be able to go online, book that appointment, and it's done. And the
Yeah.
beauty of that for your practice is there's plenty of softwares like ours that can basically take that appointment, put it into your system based on how you currently schedule, right? So it makes life easier not only for your patients but for your office as well.
It does. And, like you said, the after hours thing, like I love having a front desk person. We have a great front desk person. We've had them trained by the Scheduling Institute on answering the phones and doing all that because there are going to obviously still be people that call. And places like the Scheduling Institute and some other type of programs will say you want your phones answered between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday for sure, and even out after hours, and all that's not wrong. But I would say one of the things that takes the kind of edge off that a little bit is the online scheduling. And then if your voicemail directs them to scheduling online, that person that's busy and it's 7 a.m. on Monday, and they could just schedule right then versus calling, and I think it's a great touch point. I've talked to chiropractors that are always concerned about doing it, and when they do it, they end up not regretting it. So yeah, that's a huge one. All right, docs, here is a new opportunity for you from Darcy Sullivan of Propel. She is our SEO specialist in helping out many chiropractors with their search engine optimization and making sure Google is finding you and getting you new patients. It's amazing how many new patients chiropractors can get and are getting when they do the SEO right and a few other things. And Darcy is offering a free SEO workshop just for chiropractors, and you can sign up for that at bit.ly/propelmcm. That is bit.ly propelmcm, modern chiropractic marketing, right? And so check out that link, and we're going to have you go over 5 SEO secrets to owning the first page of Google without buying ads. And Darcy's going to give that free workshop, 1 hour, to really help grow your practice and start churning new patients from the ever mighty Google, which is still king in the online marketing. So check that out at bit.ly/propelmcm for the 1 hour free workshop. The other thing we've done, kind of segue down to a further down the line on patient experiences. What we've done with your platform is that with the two-way texting has been nice. One little example is, when patients are late, right? We have a kind of a rule: if they're 5 minutes late, we need to touch base with them. And it used to be picking up the phone and calling them. Now we actually just send them a text. Hey, Mary, we had a 3 p.m. appointment. Are you still going to make that today? And they always get back to us via text, right? Whereas when we used to have to call them, a lot of people just don't pick up if they don't recognize a number directly, like they just don't pick it up, right?
Yep.
And so, and it's been easier just to text easier as well, right?
Big time. Yeah. It's there's a funny statistic out there. So if someone has your number, your practice number saved in their phone, there's a less than a 50% chance they answer that phone call. If they don't have your number saved in their phone, there's less
Mhm.
than a 25% chance that they answer that phone call.
Yep.
So first off, just not effective. And what does that lead to? Your staff playing a bunch of phone tag, trying to chase these patients down, when in
Mhm.
reality, you shoot them a text message.
Yep.
Everyone listening, if you get a text message, you read that right away,
Yep.
don't you?
Yep.
Right. So it's just a matter of being effective, right?
Mhm.
Like we talked about, making sure that you leverage the platform that patients communicate the most on, which is text message, right? Shooting them that text message and then engaging with them that way.
And we've done it, there's a few different aspects to text messaging. Obviously, there's the two-way text, which is good, and it comes from our phone number. And you could, like the front desk is not necessarily, it's not like the front desk person's on their cell phone texting them. They do it through the computer. And so you've got that two-way text, which is great, which is better than a lot of systems have text messaging, but they don't have the two-way text. So that's one. Two is, there's obviously the appointment reminders, which is great. That's a nice patient experience thing to remind them of their appointments, which has been really nice. We've also got the, we text them for Google reviews, right? So talk a little bit about that, and then I'll hit on the fourth thing that we've been doing with texting.
Yeah, sounds great. So as far as the reviews go, like that is your
Mhm.
online reputation, right? And nowadays people trust those reviews as much as their trust in referrals. And even if someone gets referred to your office, not, I think 96% of the time they're going online and looking at those reviews before they even come into your office. So it's absolutely essential that you have some form of strategy to be building your online presence that way. Most important platform is going to be Google, but there's other platforms that are helpful as well, whether that be Facebook, whether that be Yelp. And it's really it's just the most cost-effective form of marketing in today's day and age to get qualified, high quality new patients through your doors right now.
Yeah, it really is, and you got to be getting reviews, and we did a whole episode on that with you guys, so we don't need to dive too much into it. But the reviews have been very helpful, and that, it's always interesting, right? Because your name being Review Wave, a lot of people might think it's just only about reviews, but it's not. But that's obviously kind of how you got your start going there, and it's a big part of it. And then the fourth thing we've been doing with texting is occasional reactivation campaigns, right? And I think the psychology of texting has changed, right? So a lot of our audience might be saying, like, I don't feel comfortable texting my patients, but I most people would agree now that the businesses that they use are texting them. I know I get a lot of texts from businesses that I utilize. I just we had our air conditioning company come out a few weeks ago, and we're getting texts from them and this that, and it's great. And I never really get offended by it within reason. There was one company that like just was texting me nonstop, 3, 4 times a week, even not as just reminders. This is just like, marketing promotion things. So you gotta be a little careful with the promotion stuff on it, the frequency of it. But people are comfortable with that now, and it's so effective. Every time we run one of these reactivation campaigns, we get reactivations. It's amazing.
Yeah, I would say there's a couple best practices too. It's like we never would want to be texting our patients to where we're showing up as spam,
Yeah.
right? And a couple best practices. First off, when you text your patients and it's from a random phone number, those are the types of messages that show up as spam,
Yeah.
right? Versus when you actually use the office phone number to text patients save that number in their phone and then they can call and text the same number, which is a better patient experience.
Hmm.
Another huge piece, make the text messages that you send out personalized. Like they can be automated and still be personalized to that patient where you're saying, let's say we're setting an appointment reminder out. Hey,
Hmm.
Keenan, your appointment's this day at this time with this provider for this appointment type. We're
Yeah.
super excited to see you in our office. If you need anything, let us know. Right? Things like that where you can engage with patients without coming off as spam, where it's still automated, where you're not having to think about it and we can take that time off of the plate,
Yeah.
but it creates that engagement with patients a lot better. So
Yeah.
those are a couple best practices for sure.
Good. I love it. Yeah, and it's been great for us. It's part of our marketing. We even actually did a in our coaching calls, our group coaching calls now, we ran a whole topic on use it or lose it, basically on, HSAs, FSAs, also, insurance deductibles being met and that type of stuff towards the end of the year. And then in our coaching calls, we get into small group breakouts, and we had a challenge of, each group to develop their best written copy for a use it or lose it campaign. And we aggregated all those. We ended up with like 15 different ones. And then we sent that out to all our members. So they had them. And one of the things we said was like, yeah, if you have text message capabilities, use that for the use it or lose it campaign this time of year and use this short, effective copy for that. And it was pretty cool to see the creativity of the group put it together.
Yeah,
So,
and creativity should be encouraged, right? The more
mhm,
creative you can be with a campaign, the more likely your patients are to engage with it,
yeah.
right? So, especially coming up towards the end of the year, people still have their benefits. Make sure that
Mhm.
we let those patients know that you might as well use it before you lose it. All right.
Yeah, yeah,
And
definitely. And one of the questions some people may have is compatibility with EHR. I know it's a laundry list of ones that you are, and they can always access that. But off the top of your head, what are a handful of the AHRs that your service is compatible with?
yeah, we integrate with a bunch. I mean, all the
Mhm.
main ones: ChiroTouch, Genesis, Platinum, Eclipse, Chiro 8000, PayDC, Dr. Chrono, EasyBiz. Like, there's a lot that we do integrate with. I'd say the majority. Um, yeah, there's plenty. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, that's good. And obviously there's others and they can research that and call your team and figure that out.
Yeah,
All right. So I always like to, have one foot in the present and one foot in the future. I try not to be, too future, there's always that saying, it's like, if you focus on the past too much, you become depressed. If you focus on the future too much, you become anxious. and
yep,
and I tend to get a little anxious on the future. I love it, but I'm always trying to get ahead of it. So tell us, what does the future look like? Give us
yeah.
our best plans ahead for some technology in the future.
You got it. So first and foremost, I mean, I would say there's two real categories of future that we're gonna have to focus on. So we have our younger millennials. That's me, age 26 to like 30-ish, who may not be exposed to chiropractic care yet, but they're starting to get to that point where they're going to be diving in, and those would be ideal patients for you, right? And then we have even younger, which is going to be Gen Z, which is around 10 to 25. And the biggest thing is leveraging technology in this sense, right? Making sure that we are catering to them, because the number one thing that they do throughout the day is use their phone, right?
Yeah.
Over Gen Z, I think it's over 6 hours a day that they're spending on their smartphone, whether that be TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. And then millennials, similar process, more so Facebook and Instagram, but leveraging those social media channels to make sure that you have a presence there, because
Yeah.
once those age groups get to the point where they're starting to come in for chiropractic care, that's where it's like, now
Mhm.
you've set yourself up for success in the future, and you're essentially recession proof. You're always going to have a source of new patients. You're always going to have that online branding
Yeah.
to relate to those types of patients that are now the future, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah, we hear a lot about how big the baby boomers group was, and then Gen X, like I am, we were a smaller group, but the millennials and Gen Z, it's like both are massive population of a generation, and so it's an exciting time to be a chiropractor as they come up and they end up having the buying power and the physical need of chiropractic. So it's definitely something that we need to start gearing our practice up towards their psychology and tendencies and traits and buying decisions, right? There's a lot of every group's different. Obviously, we hate to go full generalizations on people, but there is tendencies, right? And technology is kind of a given for this group.
Yeah, and play with the trends, right? And with millennials, it's more pictures based. So anything that you can do to be sending pictures out for specific promotions, or pictures of the clinic, and getting patients familiar with the office before they come in as new patients,
Yeah.
that's more the millennials. As the Gen Z starts to transition into your ideal patient here, they're more focused on video. So things like TikTok, things like Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, even. Um, it's all the stuff that can engage them through that video. So if you have um, the time, the wherewithal to be building those platforms now, that's going to be very successful for you down the line in the future here.
Yeah, and that's why our MCM Mastery, we transitioned into, we do the marketing for them, video based. Like they have to shoot the videos, but we take everything from there and do it. And it's really been great for them. And then another quick little story. Yesterday, I was on Facebook and um, our clinic's Facebook business page ended up in my news feed from a post that Dr. Jesse had done, and it was a video of one of his patients doing some really cool Pilates stuff. He's an older gentleman, and doing that. And it was a really cool video that the guy shot himself on what he can do now after, his care here. And I had texted Jesse, like, man, that's a great idea. I was like, we need more of that. It's like, ask some of our happy patients to shoot quick videos of doing the activity that they couldn't do, and now they can, and we'll start distributing that out. And so I thought that was something that was pretty clever and nice.
Yeah, that's excellent. Like before and after videos, ask patients for their consent to maybe shoot something as far as a mobility goes before your care with them. And then maybe at a re-exam appointment, you can film something with their mobility now. Testimonials always work extremely well, as long as patients are willing to do that for you, which they will be if you're providing them excellent care and they see excellent results with you. And then get creative with it, right? It's not always the easiest thing to get started with, but once you get into that routine of consistently posting, that's going to make the dividend or make the most impact, so to speak, as far as getting those consistent videos out there, which of course helps those algorithms give you that visibility to grow your following.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for your time today. This was great information. I want people to really start diving into their practice and kind of do an audit of your patient experience and what touch points could be improved. If they've got any questions, they want to follow up with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, they can contact me via email, phone call. Best email is my first name, which is Keenan, Keenan at reviewwave.com. Phone number is going to be 949-954-8189, and you can call or text me there. And then I'll shoot you a quick link to book a demo as well if you'd like to learn a little bit more about how we can help as well here.
Awesome. And I'll also put that demo link in the show notes, and we'll get that out there. So, hey, thanks for your time today. I always love diving into this stuff. It's exciting to continue to improve in this manner in our practice, and hopefully our audience will do the same.
Hey, likewise, Kevin. Appreciate you having me on. It has been a wonderful conversation here, and happy to provide some value here.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And if you want to make the shift from busy, broke, and broken to time-free and cash confident, or you just want to continue with the exponential growth, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com. Look at the MCM Mastery tab, watch the short video on there, and check out what we are doing now for evidence-informed chiropractors. We are equal parts coaching and marketing done for you. Yes, you shoot some videos, we help you with campaign strategies and ideas and really become a thought leader in your community. You shoot those videos, you send them to us, we produce, edit, and brand them to you. Then we distribute them through all of your channels. We also take them and we turn it into one good blog per month. And every other month, we have Darcy Sullivan producing a robust blog with a topic that you pick from her database to help with your SEO. So we essentially become your content marketing agency to make sure your practice is always having ethical, elegant content marketing to help grow your practice. On the coaching side, we also help you with everything from marketing ideas to business, communications, finances, anything practice growth, and really try to help prevent you from being stuck on that island. And we hold you accountable. We have a great group of doctors that are just doing amazing things, and we look forward to help you out to take that next step in your practice. So again, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com and learn more.